hems, are they supposed to be invisible? If you want it that way, I'll show you how. Coming up. Hey, Chanel here, bringing you weekly videos to help you get better and better with your fashion sewing and be more creative too. So be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on a new video. So what is an invisible hem? It's when there's no hem, you don't see it. Basically, it's when you don't see the stitch poking out on it's called the self of the fabric, on the right side of the fabric. So you got a skirt here, all the way like this, and you don't see the little stitch that's holding that up. Some people might say put glue in it. No, that's those, there's some hot glue. So even that glue tape, that shows sometimes too, because it's like you can see where it's got the glue and then it's not, and then see it and it starts to pucker over time. And I don't really like to use those on hems unless it's an emergency, right? So, so that's invisible hem is when you just get the finest little thread from the fabric with your hand needle and thread and just catch it a little bit so that it holds it up, but you don't see it through there. This skirt right here is the skirt I just finished, and this was so easy to hide a hem because it has this crazy print on the panel side. I don't know if you can see the whole, this is my Van Gogh skirt, and the other side is, there's like I'm going through print and then velvet and print again, another side of velvet. The velvet is really easy to hide because of the nap of the fabric. So it's like sewing in, I say, like, I don't know, in the trenches where you don't see the stitch. But I can see a little bit on the puckers right there, but right here I don't see any of it. And I actually continued this all the way with black thread because I was using black thread on this one. You can see I did an overlock, just flat stitch here, and so I made it just one layer so it wasn't like rolled under, because sometimes just the thickness of it will show you, will actually make it not invisible. And what I'm talking about is like this skirt here, and I'm going to show you how to invisible hem this. So I got it pressed up like this, but it's a double layer like that. So that makes it a little bit thicker, and then you can kind of see the weight of it through the hand stitch. But it all depends on the fabric a lot of times too. So, but there is the best way too is just to overlock the edge right here. That's using your serger, and then getting one layer, and then doing a little fine hand stitch all the way around, and you just pick up, if you can see it, just pick up little parts of the top of your fabric. Just pick up a little thread, and then smaller intervals too will make sure it stays up. If you go longer ones, it tends to, the weight of it can kind of pull down. So that is how you do the invisible ones. I'm actually going to show you on this one. Also, what they did on here was a seam binding right there. And in the factories, they have rolls and rolls of seam binding if they're doing, it's a skirt company, and they seem to be softer than the ones you buy in the stores. The ones in the stores will have, they're on those cards, and they tend to be a little crunchy. They also have hem lace, which is softer. You can always steam it or wash it to make it softer, because the crunchiness will make your fabric wave a little bit. But right here, nice seam tape, and then I'm going to show you how to hand stitch this with like some green thread and show you how you can hide it. But on this side right here, they have a nylon thread, the invisible thread, and just in the factories, they're just, you know, all set up all the time, and they just run this chain stitch through, which actually just takes little bites out of the top layer, you know, or like under here, and it just hides it. And I have a chain, it's called a blind stitch machine, that's what it is. I have one, and It took a while to really get used to it. This was one I got forever ago. It's not the big factory ones, but it's just you're folding it over and then you got to catch it ever so slightly, that top layer. And you get good at it the more you use it. So, and it also, a lot of it depends on the fabrics. If it's a looser weave fabric, it can just grab that thread really easily and not a whole lot of it. If it's a really thin fabric, it's a little harder. So I'll show you how to do a quick invisible stitch on these two skirts, and just give it a try. And whenever you're making your garments and you want a just nice fine edge, you gotta do an invisible hem. All right, to start with, we would start with good quality thread. This is a Malaniki, and it's called a long fibered polyester, and if you put your fingers run it down through thread, you'll feel the smoothness of it, and that actually means it's going to go through the fabric a lot smoother. Gutermann thread has a really good one, and then dual duty. It's also used all-purpose. Don't use the top stitching thread, but this is a little bit rougher than the Malaniki. These ones just are really smooth. There's another one, Metrocene, that's out there that's really good, but these are hard to find. So the Gutermann or the dual duty, you know, they'll be fine, but the quality thread is going to make a difference how it runs through. Also, I like to use the longer needles. They tend to work better. And then you can run it through your beeswax holder like this to coat the thread so that you can have a little less tangles in there. So I put a knot on the end. I'm also going to hand sew. You want to just use one layer thread here. So I have it through the eye and just doing one layer. And I also leave a longer tail like this way so it doesn't come out of that. Some people put a knot up here, which if it's a real tiny knot, it'll work, but sometimes it prevents it from coming through. So I just hem this little part right here. What I'm going to do is hide the knot. I'm going to kind of come up, and you can hide it like right under the tape there. So it should just go, hides right in there. And then you're just going to go and take just a little piece of the skirt fabric here. As you can see, it's just like barely there. Lift it through, and then you can take a bigger chunk of the tape there. And then a little tiny piece right there, a bigger chunk of the tape. That little tiny chunk there, bigger part of the tape, and you just whip stitch it along there. Also, in case you don't know how to use seam tape, it's just a tape that's stitched to the edge of this fabric. They actually have theirs overlocked here too. It probably frayed a lot, so they did that. Sometimes you can just maybe do a pinking, use your pinking shears to cut it there and then sew the tape over it. You can see just the one, there's a stitch right here, and then it just sews the tape on it. It just helps this to lay flush and smoother right there. So then again, we just do, you can take longer strides. See, actually this one I got 2 threads in here. A lot of times if you see the needle on the other side, then you know you're going to see the thread. Right here I don't see any green thread. Right there. Oh, it did it right here. There's like no green thread because you just take one little of this fabric stitch out of there. So you're going to, again, so now if I took a bigger stitch right here, probably see the needle on the edge there, and then if I went up like this, then you would see the thread. And if this was white, this fabric would hide in there really well anyway. So you don't want to take big chunks. So I'll do that again. You just go through, big chunk, and then again you see it. So visible hem is just really being, extra careful, just getting a little piece out of there like that, and then moving on down that way. And then when your thread gets too long, you just your other end of this thread's coming out, you just move it along like that, and then you go up to, I also like to, when I get to a seam right here, the seam allowance, sometimes I'll give a little extra security right there and maybe put a little knot in it, a little thread loop knot right there just to hold it a little tighter. But there you go. So that's just whip stitched alongside there. You can do little strides or longer ones, and then just don't grab too much of the skirt fabric. So that's that one. Then we have this one we would do with a double if you just want to roll it over like that. You always want to use matching thread. So you would think you just do navy with this, but actually the denim color on this works a lot better. I have a thread all ready to go. This actually looks light from there, and I have a knot right there. I'm gonna hide the knot under here, right in there. Then I'll come up, and I like to start on the seams. The seam allowances actually really help because you can get it started that way. And then again, I'm just going to get a little bite of that fabric and a bigger chunk on that one. Bigger or small, this one little thread, bigger chunk on that one, and you just whip stitch it along. One tiny little thread right there, and then through here. Ooh, and then you get knots like this sometimes. Ooh, that's a big one. Now I think I put coating on this one, and sometimes these will undo. Don't panic. You just pull the loop on it like that, and a lot of times it'll come apart. Nope, this one is a goner. Maybe not. Nope, it's a goner. Yeah, really tied up. So then what I would do in that case, see all this thread right here, and if my fabric is deep enough, I didn't want to start over again, because you could just start over again. You could take all that thread, tuck it under there. That is a lot. I probably would start over on there, but just kind of tuck it all under there, and then stitch it in. Make sure it all stays under there because you don't want it to pop out. And then hide it in there. Only you will know. And you just take little tiny threads. See? You never know what's in there now. Take a little bit right there. And then right here, you're not seeing any of that stitch right there. I'll take a big chunk of, a bigger chunk right here, where you would actually see the needle right here. I'll pull it through. You probably still may not see it because the thread is such a good match. But it'll leave like little kind of dents in there, and that's really what ends up showing sometimes, is just the dent. So you want to not get a dent, and you don't want to pull this really tight. And that way, just go along. That's a whip stitch. You can also go in, you can actually hide your needle inside here also. Bring it out if you don't want any of your thread to match or to show. And then take a little bit of that thread, bring it up right here. And then again, bring your needle through that fold over right there, pull it out, and then catch a little bit of the skirt itself, bring it through, and then you can see it's pretty hidden on the top too, as well as the side. So here is this part I just sewed right there. You can't see it. There you go. That is how you hide your stitches. All right, there you have it. Invisible hem. That's how you do it. Pretty easy. Just involves a little bit of hand stitching. Just taking ever so little bites out of the top of the fabric, and you won't see it. Also, really be sure to get matching thread and use your beeswax so it doesn't tangle up. And just take your time. I think that's the trick to invisible hems, is taking your time. So if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below, and I'll answer and reply. And take a look at my other videos on hand stitching and how to do machine stitch hems too. I'll leave links at the end of the video. And little practice, you'll get it. See you in the next sew bit.